Alright, so welcome back to my channel, you guys. I want to go ahead and try out products that I honestly don't like or ever use in my collection, and I wanted to get rid of them, but something told me to try it out and see if they may work on my skin or not, because my skin's a little bit different right now and the weather is different, so that may go ahead and play a factor into it. But yeah, I do have work in a little bit, and I'm low-key nervous because if this looks bad, then I don't know what to say. So yeah, hopefully I don't look crazy at work today, but let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so first things first is primer, and I'm using the No Poreblem primer, and I've reviewed this before on my channel and I didn't hate it, but at the same time I didn't love it because it didn't fill in my pores like at all. It made my skin look really nice and smooth, but this is a No Poreblem primer. It's supposed to fix your pores, so I don't know what happened there, but I still kept it in my collection because I love the packaging, I love how pretty it is, but for my skin I just didn't really like it that much. So yeah, I'm just putting some on the back of my hand, and this is what it looks like. It is silicone based, I'm pretty sure. So what I'm gonna do is put this around my face right here, especially in my pores, because those are the areas that need to be covered up. And I'm still gonna go in with my Kane & Austin primer in my T-zone because I'm very oily and I have to use that no matter what. But let's see how this performs on the skin. So I'm just pressing it into my skin, and I love the way it feels, but at the same time it feels a little bit too slippery, especially if you're oily. I don't think it's a good primer for that because I feel like it's gonna slip and slide throughout the whole entire day. So yeah, I'm just blending this out, and my skin doesn't look any different. If anything, it looks moisturized, but I'm trying to have that smooth canvas. Like, that's what I'm going for. And in a little bit, I'm gonna grab a mirror to see what my pores look like up close, because that is the whole point of this primer. So I let it sit on my skin for a minute or two, and looking into the viewfinder, my skin looks a lot better. I will say that. It looks very smooth, moisturized, and whatnot. But when it comes to my pores, it doesn't fill them in at all. A little bit of my nose, it did fill in my pores on my nose, I will say that. But when it comes to my cheek area, which is like my major problem, it didn't fill it in at all. So I don't really think it fills in your pores. If anything, it makes your skin look really good. So that's about it. So I went ahead and color corrected my face. Now moving on to foundation. This is the Fenty Beauty by Rihanna foundation in the shade 420, and this foundation always gets me because when I first heard about it, y'all, I was so hyped, and the first few weeks I loved it, but I think I loved it because of the hype more so than anything, because the more I use it, I was just like, this is not working for my skin. Like, no matter what primer I use, no matter what brush or sponge I use, it just didn't look good on my skin at all. And I think I also heard that they're coming out with more shades, but the shade 420 is a little bit too light for me, or a little bit too orange. I'm not sure exactly because I can't remember having used it in such a long time. So hopefully it fits me a little bit now, because I am a little bit lighter because it is winter time. All right, so I'm shaking it up, and you really have to shake it up because it is a little bit liquidy in there. And this is what it looks like. And the shade doesn't look too bad right now. I think it'll match me, but it may look a little bit orange. I don't think it's that bad. And to blend it out, I'm using the Real Technique sponge, which you guys know I don't really like at all. They definitely changed something in here because it feels a little bit too rubbery. It doesn't feel very soft like I would like it to. So I'm using this today to see if I like it a little bit more. But let me blend this out because it does dry really fast, and I don't want it to dry up on me. So let's see. So far, it looks good, but it always does this at first. Like, it looks decent, but then throughout the day, I feel like it breaks up on my skin. So the only thing I will say is my skin looks very matte, which I thought I would love because I'm very oily, but this just looks a little bit too matte. on my skin. Like, something about it I don't like. So what I may do throughout the day is see how it performs, and I'll let you guys know in the description bar below if I like it a little bit more. But right now, first impressions, I'm loving it a little bit, but not that much, if that makes sense. So looking up close in the mirror, I will say my skin looks good, but when it comes to my nose, y'all, it's very patchy and it's already separating on my nose, but the skin looks decent. Like, it doesn't look terrible. I will say when it comes to this foundation, I don't hate it, but when it comes to, like, you know, picking an everyday foundation that I want to wear, this won't be my first choice at all, just because it's a little bit hard to work with, and throughout the day I feel like it just doesn't perform as well. So moving on to concealer, I do have the NARS Soft Matte Concealer in the shade Amande, and you guys know when I first talked about this, I felt like it was a little bit too dry for my under eyes, and I didn't like the way it blended at all, and I spent so much money on this, so I don't want to throw it away. I want to try it out for, you know, one more time and see if I sort of like it or kind of like it. But if I don't, it's totally fine because I can use it as an eye primer if anything, so I'm not really missing out on that. So I'm taking some of this on my Morphe M173 brush, and I'm just gonna stipple this underneath the eyes. So going back in with the sponge, I'm just gonna press it into my skin, and I feel like this concealer is probably best with a brush, but I don't have any good brushes to blend it in with, so I have to use a sponge, and it's blending really nicely so far. Like, low-key shocked. So I think that did the job. It looks a whole lot better and it looks smooth so far. So far, everything's kind of not as bad as it first was when I tried it out. I don't know because my skin is better. I don't know what, but it's not as terrible as I thought. So I quickly contoured my face off camera, and y'all, my skin is looking good. It's looking really good, so I feel like I'm gonna go ahead and eat my words because these are looking really good on my skin right now. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I like it. But moving on to setting powder, I'm using the Sacha Buttercup setting powder, and y'all know how I feel about this powder right here. I feel like it's too cakey and too dry for my under eyes. But I've been seeing Makeup Shayla and a bunch of people talking about it recently, and I'm just like, how am I the only one who feels like a certain way about it? So I want to go ahead and try this out again and see if I like it. I'm pretty sure I'm not, but a lot of people like it, so maybe I'm missing something. I don't know at this point. So what I'm gonna do is take the Real Technique sponge, and I'm first gonna blend out my crease, and I'm still gonna use my baking method that I use. I first press into my skin, then I bake on top, and let's see if that makes a difference. Okay, so I'm just pressing it into my skin, and it's smoothing it out. It's not, you know, acting crazy at all. Usually I can't tell if it acts crazy till I bake my under eyes, because when I press any powder into my skin, it looks nice at first. So no issues so far, but we shall see. Now I'm just taking the powder, I'm just gonna bake right on top of it. So I'm just gonna bake for about 10 minutes or so, and I'll be right back. And crossing my fingers, this does not play me. I just hope not. So it's been about 20 minutes. Let me brush it off, and it looks decent. Like, I was watching it bake actually, and I was looking at it, and it didn't look like it usually does when it's gonna go bad. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, you know, when you're baking your face, you can just tell right away a powder is not gonna work for you. This didn't do that. All right, so let me just brush this off quickly. So I'm just grabbing a mirror right now, and I'm looking up close at my face, and it doesn't look terrible, y'all. Like, it doesn't look terrible, but at the same time, what it does in my face is once I bake with it, it looks a little bit splotchy in the areas right here, and it's doing that just a little bit, but it doesn't look terrible. So I don't hate it, I just don't love it. But comparing how I felt about it before, I will say I don't hate it as bad. Like, I won't completely get rid of this powder because it may work on somebody else's skin, but on mine it doesn't look as flawless as my Huda Beauty powder. That powder I love so much. But I'm getting impressed, y'all. I'm really impressed today because I just thought I was gonna hate all these products and they're doing good so far. So to set my face, I'm going in with my Clinique Stay Matte Sheer Pressed Powder in the shade Stay Brandy. And when I open it up, y'all probably think like, girl, it looks like this, you must have loved this powder. It wasn't that. I just hate wasting money, so I kept using it, but it didn't make my skin look flawless or smooth. Like, it didn't do anything for me. So I wanted to try it and see if I do like it somewhat. So I'm using my Wet n Wild brush. This is their powder brush, and I'm taking some of this powder onto that. I'm just gonna press it on my face. So like I said, it set my face, but it doesn't do anything spectacular. So I don't think it's worth the money to buy this. I mean, even with that, it was not expensive. It was probably like $24, $25. But I mean, it does a good job. It just performs as well as a drugstore powder. So you really don't need to spend your money on this one right here. Alright, so I really don't have a blush or a bronzer that I don't like in my collection because everything I do have, I do like and use. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly bronze my face and put blush on, and I'll be right back. Alright, so last but not least is the Laura Geller Gilded Honey Highlighter. And y'all have heard my story about this highlighter because it has plagued me on so many levels, so many events, so many places I went to. I'm just like, couldn't use it anymore. But I noticed you have to use a certain brush with this, and I think it was the fan brush that I did recommend. And this is the Morphe M310, I think, brush. This is their fan brush right here, and it just applies it really nicely on the skin. I used to hate this highlighter so much because it will look so streaky on my skin, but once you use the right brush, you'll be totally fine. So let me go ahead and put some of this onto the brush and then place it right there. Now I will say it does look a little bit icy on my skin. Like in the packaging itself, it looks very bronzy and gold, but on my skin it looks icy. And even though it's applying well, I don't like how it's sitting on my skin. Like, it doesn't look glowy. It looks like a powder highlight. Like, it looks like it has a powder texture, if that makes sense. It just doesn't do justice for my skin at all, y'all. Oof. So I applied it to the rest of my face, and even though it looks good on camera in person, it does look a little bit too icy. I just feel like the shade is just too light for my skin tone. But what I may do is use my sponge right here and just press into my skin so that it doesn't look as bright. So last but not least is the lips, and I don't hate this product. I just want to go ahead and try it out. And this is the Morphe lipstick in the shade Tempt, and it just looks so rosy and pretty in the packaging, so I just want to try this out. But for my lip liner, I'm using the NYX lip liner in the shade Brown All Over, and then the middle, I'm going to go ahead and put the lipstick. So I'm not one to brag on myself, you guys, but I will say my skin and my face looks really, really good. I'm just so shocked because these products, once I tried them, I didn't like it as much, and I just completely forgot about them in my collection. But these products surprised me today. I don't hate them as much. I may go ahead and use them once in a while, probably not often, but at the same time, they're not terrible products. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe on your way out. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next one.